Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX's special coverage of Union Budget 2025. A visionary roadmap for Viksit Bharat 2047 has been laid out by Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Remember, today was the first full-fledged budget of Modi 3.0. And what have been the biggest focus areas? Well, that's something we're attempting to break down for you through the day today. And the Union Budget, of course, is aiming to initiate transformative reforms as well. One of the key engines for driving growth that has been outlined by the Finance Minister in the Lok Sabha today is investment, whether in people, infrastructure or innovation. The centre has presented an ambitious plan for enhancing India's competitive edge on the global stage. On that note, let's quickly take a look at what the highlights were as far as this big push for investment are concerned. Let's quickly, of course, show you what that was and what those big announcements, of course, were. So firstly, the big investment in people. Well, the Saksham Anganwadi and the Poshan 2.0 program, which will impact, in fact, 9+ crore children, pregnant women as well as adolescent girls, is in fact now going to be enhanced further. Also, 50,000 Atal Tinkering Labs in government schools in next 5 years to foster scientific thinking in children as well. Further investments for people was the broadband connectivity to be provided for all government secondary schools and also primary health centers in rural areas. All of this to be done under, of course, BharatNet. Meanwhile, Bharatiya Bhasha Pustak scheme also to provide digital form Indian language books for schools as well as for higher education. Meanwhile, 5 national centers of excellence for skilling to also be set up, in fact, with global expertise to equip youth with the key manufacturing skills that are needed by them. Also, the Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence, that's AI, for education, with a total outlay of 500 crore rupees to be set up as well. Meanwhile, also a capacity of 23 IITs to be expanded with additional infrastructure for 5 IITs, including an IIT Patna as well. 75,000 additional seats to be added in medical colleges as well. This will be done in a phased manner over the period of the next 5 years. Also, daycare cancer centers in all districts hospital to be set up in the next 3 years as well. That's also something which, of course, crucially will happen in this budget. And PM Swanidhi to be revamped with enhanced loans from banks, uplink credit cards with 30,000 limit as well. Urban Challenge Fund of 1 lakh crore rupees to implement proposals for creative redevelopment of cities. That's also something that, of course, is now being set aside. And also the government to arrange for the gig workers' identity cards and also their registration through the e-Shram portal to be done as well. Meanwhile, now also a big announcement as far as the investment in the infrastructure is concerned. An outlay of 1.5 lakh crores proposed for 50-year interest-free loans for states. This for CapEx, for capital expenditure in particular. Meanwhile, infrastructure-related ministries to in fact come up with a 3-year pipeline of projects. This to be done in a PPP mode. That's also something very, very crucial and important in today's budget. Extension of the Jal Jeevan Mission until 2028 has also been planned with an enhanced total outlay for quality of infrastructure as well to be enhanced. Second asset monetization plan 2025. 30 will be launched. This, of course, is a plan from 2025 to 2030. It will be launched to plow back capital of 10 lakh crore rupees in new projects on ground. Electricity distribution reforms also to be incentivized for improvement of intrastate transmission capacity by states as well. So a lot, of course, in this announcement will be passed on now for the state's responsibility as well in this federal setup of ours. Nuclear energy mission for R&D of small modular reactors with an outlay of 20,000 crore rupees. That's also something that has been announced today. Shipbuilding financial assistance policy to be revamped to address cost disadvantages in the shipbuilding sector. We saw those shipbuilding stocks, of course, rally as well, as we told you earlier. Meanwhile, a maritime development fund with a corpus of 25,000 crores to also be set up today as announced in the budget. Modified Udan scheme will be very soon launched to enhance regional connectivity to 120 new destinations across the country. This in a period, again in a phased manner, over the next 10 years. Meanwhile, financial support to be provided for the Western Koshi Canal project covering over 50,000 hectares of land. This in the state of Bihar. Remember, a lot, of course, in this budget for Bihar. It goes to polls later this year. 20,000 crore rupees allocated for private sector driven research, development and innovation initiatives as well. Remember, this, of course, are the investments in innovation. We told you earlier how this budget, of course, had a very pragmatic approach: investments in people, investments in infrastructure, and also investments in innovation. We are, of course, speaking now of the innovation sector. Deep Tech Fund of funds to be explored to support next generation startups, which are particularly in the emerging technological sectors. So obviously something that's futuristic looking. Establishment of a second gene bank also to be done, with a 10 lakh germplasm lines to ensure future food as well as nutritional security as well. National Geospatial Mission to develop foundational geospatial infrastructure and data which will benefit urban planning as well in a significant manner. Also 10,000 fellowships under the Prime Minister's Research Fellowship Program at institutions like the IITs and IISCs will be set up over the next 5 years. These fellowships, of course, will provide innovation but will also benefit the people there as well. Gyan Bharatam mission for survey, documentation and conservation of more than 1 crore manuscripts to also be given a push. India's space race gets a financial boost with 13,416 crore rupee allocation as well, further for this very crucial space sector in which we've been making huge strides. 6,103 crore rupees earmarked specifically for the capital outlay on space research as well. So those, of course, are the announcements. Let's quickly now take that across to our panel as well to get their thoughts, of course, on this big push and what the ramifications of this is going to be. Mitali Nikore, economist, is joining us live. We also have Major General Shashi Asthana, former Additional DG Infantry, live with us. Dilip Cherian, Indo-American relation expert, joining us. He's also, of course, an image guru. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, is live with us. Pathikrit Pine, geopolitical analyst, is joining us now live. Air Vice Marshal Rajiv Ranjan from Space DRDO is also live with us. Mitali Nikore, let me begin with you first. Very interesting that the budget has focused on investments for infrastructure in a phased manner, Mitali, for people as well, with, of course, the fellowships and the study programs and new medical seats and new colleges creation, and also the emphasis on innovation as well. In that way, looking towards the future as well, not just a budget for 1 year alone, but more futuristic than that.
Absolutely, Uday. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show today to dissect the budget in such a detailed manner. And what I would say is that, when we look at this investment pillar, I mean, of course, she outlined 4 pillars, right? She had agriculture, MSMEs, exports, and then investments. What I found very interesting is that she spoke about human capital development as an investment pillar. And I think that is the right lens with which to look at investment. We have to look at the creation of skills in our economy, the integration of digital skills and digital capabilities with human capital as a very important input into growth and sustaining growth. And I think the second thing which I'd like to talk about is the COEs, the centers of excellence that she spoke about. Because, the centers of excellence, I expect, will not just be like those old, only government run centers where, decisions were made at a central level. However, centers where there is active industry participation, and the industry setting the curriculum. Because when I speak to industry, they tell me, I don't want to hire anybody from a skill training institute at this point in time because they are not following the industry relevant curriculum. So I really hope that these COEs will emerge as true centers of excellence where industry has a massive role to play in setting the curriculum and also in rentals. Really a very forward-looking budget from that perspective. But yes, I would have definitely liked to see more on integrating women into the skilling cycle and also on digitization, a little more focus on automation in the manufacturing sector, automation skills and machine learning.
Dilip Cherry, let me quickly bring you in here as well. Dilip Cherry, now, of course, the budget has to be all encompassing. In that aspects, how, crucial was today's budget and how all encompassing was it? And as far as this push for investment and, increase of capex is concerned for the innovation sector and also for, of course, the, people sector, investing in people, investing in brains, investing, of course, in further skilling people is concerned. How important were these announcements according to you?
I think the announcements in terms of skilling people is fantastic. It's future oriented, coming at a time when globally the threat of AI replacing most repetitive jobs and definitely a lot of the thinking jobs. We really need to upskill people so that they can be participating in the economy in a relevant and hopefully remunerative manner. That's one. The second thing is that I hope that, as was just discussed, that industry has a role to play in this, because we don't have a shortage of attempts to train in India. We have also brilliant professors of IIT who come up with all kinds of antediluvian thoughts and processes which are not scientific or even future oriented and look into the dim and grim past. But what I think is great about what Nirmala Sitharaman has achieved is that she has put the focus back on the future. And I think that's very important. Whether it is in the investments which she foresees into the nuclear energy sector, or whether it is the future that she sees in terms of increasing consumption and research, etc. I think that these are things that the finance minister needs to look at. It needed to have come a lot earlier, but who's to complain? I think whenever it comes, it's a good thing for the economy. And I think that I doubt we need more mega IITs. We need specialist centers for excellence, and we need to make sure that they really are cutting edge if they want to be relevant in the future, which I see not as 2047, but I see as close as 2030. So I think urgency has been, in a sense, been waited for, and I hope that what the finance minister has attempted to start today sets the ball rolling really fast. We have no time. Other economies which we compete with are far ahead.
Okay, let me also, in fact, bring in at this point Air Vice Marshal Rajiv Ranjan from Space DRDO. Air Vice Marshal Ranjan, thank you for being with us as well. Your first comment, of course, on the Union Budget 2025 and particularly what outlays have been announced for the space sector.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for having me with you all. See, it's for me, it's a well-rounded budget, while the social sector and growth being the major focus, also the technology innovation and the skilling, the knowledge enhancement has been at the forefront. Of course, the government, apart from various activity, is also looking at undergrad, postgrad to align their education so that it meets the defense and the space ecosystem needs. While the defense has got a substantial increase in terms of 9% booster over the last year of 6.21 lakh crore additional money, capital budget continues to be major focus, 27 to 28% of the government, which is generally the standard for all the militaries. And also the domestic segment would get 75% and thereabout. DRDO has got around 24,000, little more than the last year. Space has got additional money to, and we should see special projects in that they have articulated from Gaganyaan to the other launch vehicle platforms. MSME, AI, scholarship, all in all, and the more so is as we go into Atmanirbharta, we have to look at the critical mineral. If you are going to manufacture your own semiconductor and various items, then you need to focus. So therefore, government has looked at 25 critical mineral and 2 additional ones, so that they are giving some amount of tax rebate. Also, critically, they are looking at reverse taxation or inverted tax, wherein our designers, they get more benefit as compared to the PLI. I would have loved to see that enhancement in the R&D tax break, going up to 200% as it is to be in erstwhile era beyond 2000, I mean earlier than 2016, if we have to become from manufacturing to R&D side.
Yes.
So S&T R&D tax should be the next target for us. Thank you.
No, but as far as, of course, now the the financial assistance being provided to the space sector is concerned, and particularly, of course, the expansion of geospatial mission, which has also been, of course, announced, apart from, of course, boosting startups and MSMEs, also which hopefully will be in the space sector. How hopeful are you of that leading to a further growth in this sector, in this very crucial sector, and also for jobs to be created by this sector as well?
Absolutely. With the recent announcement of FDIs, wherein a large number of FDI, almost virtually 100%, it can inflow into the space segment, and with a budget of more than 10,000 crore and GIS allotment of 100 crore, I think it's a pretty good for the space segment. And the armed forces are bullish about it. Already you hear CCS has cleared around 32 satellite and some additional are in the pipeline. The satellite being only small portion of the budget, the business industry gets. The large chunk is the analysis of the data and the services it brings along with those assets. So I see all in all, whatever the vision of in-space Dr. Goenka had, and also the ISRO and the armed forces, I foresee the next 3 to 5 years would be transformative for the space segment. And we, as it is, we are in the top countries, top 5, we would be further getting a boost. And I would like to compliment them for docking into their space. That gives an additional both defensive and offensive capability for the armed forces.
Okay, let me also quickly ask you now about what further this sector needs in the next couple of years, as of course the growth and strides ahead, of course, continue, Air Vice Marshal Ranjan, not just, of course, by ISRO, for which we are very, very proud, but also for private players now to begin emerging, in this sector, like we're seeing happen abroad.
Of course, in terms of the, firstly, I'll go to the skilling. The government of India recently announced additional masters into the space and the undergrad for the space, special attention, wherein the minor degrees have been introduced for the space, and various colleges have taken up the challenge. Also, the large number of the private players as a result are coming in. And some of them, even the US Space Force has picked up. Digantra to name one, or also Pixel to name another one. In a big manner, US Space Force is aggressive about them. Also, Indian Armed Forces in a big manner going to handhold them, not only buying the product,
yes,
look into the future for R&D, and also be knowledge partner.
Okay.
Knowledge partner in which they teach, make us contemporary, okay, and also they learn the.
Okay, my final question before we let you
point.
go is on, of course, the money also for space projects, big budget allocation for ambitious space projects. How hopeful are you that there will be further research done, of course, now, further space research? Also, the push for India to become a tech hub, also this push for AI, how crucial, and how do you see that as well?
Is this for me?
Yes.
Okay, for the AI, from the armed forces, you'll be soon hearing that they would be launching some amount of the projects, and also they would be launching, procuring some supercomputers. One is more or less work is on at very advanced stage. Another two, etc., is coming in.
Yes.
Large number of projects are likely to be thrown in by the armed
Okay.
forces, because we are bullish about something called as multi-domain operations, wherein AI plays a great role.
All right, Eva Ranjan, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on the Union Budget 2025. Let me also join Joyita Basu now. Joyita Basu, an all-encompassing budget, your take on it, your perspective on it, particularly, of course, this push that we've seen for infrastructure investments as well. We've seen infra growth, of course, in the last few years. Very, very significant infrastructure growth has happened. But this all has also further boosted our GDP and also leads to job creation, doesn't it?
Yes, of course, infrastructure. In fact, if you look at any budget, in fact, this government, especially for the last 3-4 years, actually, and infrastructure is one of their specialities, and that is what is being highlighted this time also. And you see, because if you have the logistics, until and unless, apart from the areas of the hinterland surrounding where this infrastructure is taking place, job creation happens. You're absolutely right about that. And as well as, the more infrastructure, the better the infrastructure, the better the way these industrial growth. Without infrastructure growth, without investment in infrastructure, you cannot expect a country to grow. And that is what we have seen. In fact, I think the last budget it was, where that this major push had come in. I don't exactly remember the number, so that is in continuation with that. But overall, I would say the budget, in fact, some people are calling it populist, but at the same time, I would say this is gradually, this is Modi 3.0, his first budget. After, I would say there was a budget last year that did not create much ripples, it caused much ripples, but this is the first time that we are seeing after his coming to power for the third time, that major push has been given. Some were calling it a make or break budget, because economy has been seen to be stagnating and all. So in terms of that, this middle class, the push towards the middle class, giving more money in the hands of the middle class, that I think will have long term effects. In particular, consumption will rise. So overall, I would say it's a very positive, there's a very positive feeling about the budget, and I would say there's especially particularly among the salaried class, they're ecstatic.
Okay. Let me in fact quickly also now get in some breaking news coming in this hour. After the presentation of the Union Budget 2025, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has gone to the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's seat and congratulated her for presenting a public welfare oriented budget. We could also see Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, BJP, in fact, National President JP Nadda, Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, also Union Minister Chirag Paswan in the visuals as well, in which, of course, we saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi, particularly rise from his seat and go to the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's seat and, of course, congratulate her. These are those visuals, of course, which came in earlier. He congratulated her. Also with him, of course, were other union ministers. But a big moment today, of course. Remember, there has been an all-round cheer in the country after this budget, and these visuals, I think, really do say a lot. Also then, of course, you saw how union ministers went and congratulated Prime Minister also for this budget. But the PM, of course, going and commending the FM Nirmala Sitharaman, and she, of course, accepted that. Okay. Let's now quickly move on and tell you about now some export announcements as well, because there were a lot of exports announcement in today's budget 2025 as well. From the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, of course, in particular, announcing the export promotion mission with a 2,250 crore outlay as well. This also was something that was announced by the FM in today's budget. Also, the export promotion mission aiming to support exports by facilitating export credit and also addressing non-tariff barriers as well. In fact, export promotion mission will be led by Ministries of Commerce, MSME and Finance. Also, now very quickly, if we tell you, let's just quickly go on to the next slide. The focus on providing, in fact is on providing cross-border factoring support for MSMEs as well as exporters. That's obviously the focus, of course, of this outlay and these announcements. The National Manufacturing Mission also now very crucial here, introduced to boost Make in India for this sector as well. So this, of course, also a big announcement today. Export mission also to focus on enhancing the ease of doing business and workforce readiness as well for any manufacturer coming in. Also, the government aims to promote a dynamic MSME sector, technology access and also quality products as well. Exporters also to face challenges from climate related non-tariff measures such as CBAM and EUDR as well. So see, that's again something that will further help ease of doing business. India's goods exports have reached $321.37 billion. That's a 1.6% increase from last year, also something mentioned by the Finance Minister today. Finance Ministry also did not extend interest equalization scheme despite industry requests. So those, of course, are some measures announced today in this budget. All right, Mithali Nikore, quickly, asking you now about this big, of course, focus. As far as, of course, this sector is concerned, Mithali, exports is something that is very integral for the Make in India mission and in our quest to become a hub for manufacturing, for tech, for data and for other sectors. How important were today's announcements in the budget to further boost exports, which have seen a rise, as I mentioned earlier in the graphics?
Yes, absolutely, Uday. I mean, we've seen that, over the last 3 years, exports have become one of the biggest growth drivers and fastest growing growth drivers for the Indian economy. One of the major reasons for this is the production linked incentive scheme, because we are now seeing a number of new commodities enter into Indian export supply chains. I mean, the iPhone, one would have never imagined that India would export nearly 1 lakh crore worth of iPhones from the country, and now the PLI scheme has made that happen. However, the PLI scheme is only a stopgap arrangement. One cannot keep on giving SOPs for the manufacturing and export of commodities indefinitely, and therefore it becomes very important to have a comprehensive export promotion ecosystem where companies come in and see the benefit of exporting from India in terms of lower logistics costs, in terms of being able to reach not only the Indian domestic market, when a foreign company is coming here to manufacture, it's only to access the Indian domestic market at this point, but to also be able to export from India into, say, neighboring countries, into closer in countries which are close to India, and where the cost of exporting then reduces. And that's why this promotion scheme is very critical, because it talks about multimodal logistics. It talks about connecting ports with consumption centers as well as production centers in the hinterland of the economy, and it talks about workforce readiness, because it's very important to also have a logistics sector workforce which is ready to take on the challenges of exporting at that level. What I would have loved to see, of course, in this is to talk about a gender sensitive approach towards creating this workforce, where more and more women can actually come and join the port sector, the logistics sector, and work in the sector with the kind of automation that we are seeing in the sector. But all in all, a very positive move for the Indian economy.
Cherin,
Back to you.
quickly roping you in here on, of course, the export sector. How important was this push today on the exports mission, of course, and also, of course, as far as the export sector is concerned, this is very integral to the success of Make in India, isn't it, Dilip Cherin? Which are our strengths which we need to further and which you believe today's budget will further?
I think exports all around are an opportunity, especially given the value of the rupee having softened. With every notch that it goes down, every product of ours will inevitably find acceptance in the global market, if for no other reason than on the price account. But I think the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister have been very clear. They are looking at clusters of industries which, like the iPhone or like toys, are going to be focused on making sure that what is being produced under Atmanirbharta schemes, under PLI schemes, also gain the scale and success that is needed to create global markets. So I think that the push towards exports is the result of two things. One, recognition that India simply has to be a manufacturing hub, and that is why the PLI scheme was thought of. And um, as Mitali said, that is only a short term gain. The longer term gain will be to make sure that, given the appropriate value of the rupee, India is able to export many of these products, which we will now begin to produce in scale.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, let me quickly, go across now to some more announcements. In fact, coming in, some more announcements. In fact, coming in today, as far as this a big sector is concerned. Let's quickly now, if we can, draw out more announcements pertaining now to the nuclear energy as well. And this is very, very important for the nuclear energy sector. The nuclear energy mission, with an outlay of 20,000 crore rupees now, seeing a big boost as well. So this is again something that has been very important in today's budget, the active partnership with private players in the guarded nuclear sector under the nuclear energy mission. Today also, of course, seeing a big boost and a big announcement for partnerships to be made as well for this sector. Development, of course, also of at least 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy by 2047. That again is a goal that has been set out in this sector. Amendments to Atomic Energy Act and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act to also be taken up. In fact, this is again something crucial that was announced. Also, indigenously developed SMRs will be operationalized by 2033. Okay, let me quickly, in fact, on this aspect, rope in now Major General Asthana. Major General Asthana, as far as this boost for our nuclear energy sector is concerned, how crucial will this be, this push by the government for this sector?
Clean energy, in any case, is the crucial importance for India, for the simple reason when we are not energy self-sufficient and we are already importing almost 80% of our requirement from abroad. And whenever, and in the new geopolitical order, where all the sources, whether it was Russia or Iran, everybody is getting sanctioned, certainly we need to have some kind of alternate arrangements to make energy. Although nuclear energy cannot fulfill the entire need of the country, but certainly it can substantiate a fair amount of energy requirement of India. That's number one. Coming on to the defense budget, the defense budget is a basic policy document to supplement and to make sure that the national aim is fulfilled. And if I have to summarize the entire national aim of India, and in addition to whatever Prime Minister Modi has spoken, if I have to summarize everything in 3 words, in my opinion, the national aim is peaceful, inclusive growth. And therefore, this budget certainly looks at the peaceful, inclusive growth in all spheres and segments. A number of them have already been spoken by the panelists earlier. Now, let me highlight certain issues regarding the defense budget. As was mentioned, the defense budget now is 6,81,000 crores or something like that. Now, if we compare it, the defense budget, whether it is sufficient or not, is always dictated by what are the threats and what your potential adversaries are doing. In both cases, whether it is Pakistan, they may be breaking economically, but as far as their acquisitions are concerned, the kind of aircrafts which they are inducting and they are ready to manufacture with Chinese help, that should give us an alarm signal. Same is the case with China. The amount of, if they are having about 3 to 4, the declared budget is $296 billion as against 90, some less than 90 of ours. So they are also, although we don't compete with China because of their ambition is different, but notwithstanding that, we certainly need to take care of our threats. So therefore, this budget is about 2% of the GDP. I think most of the world and most of the countries in the world have gone up a little more. And therefore, I think we need to take it to 2.5. Let me remind, 1962, again, we had 2% of GDP was the defense budget, and we have increased a little earlier. But at the same time, it's not that we should get more money only for defense. The reason is there are competing requirements, which is understandable. We also need to have the capacity to absorb that money and be able to put it in the manufacturing, in the defense manufacturing, and the capacity to put that money into defense manufacturing. Now, that requires a major shake-up because that is where I think a lot is being done, and a lot of announcements which were made, whether it is MSMEs, whether it is innovation, whether it is helping the digitized world, whether it is Digitech fund, whether it is infrastructure, because see, infrastructure is a dual requirement, which is for the military as well as for
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you. Let me quickly bring in Pathikrit Pine as well for his take on this aspect of the union budget. This push for nuclear energy is concerned, these amendments, these partnerships, incentivization, and of course also these SMRs, the goal for operationalizing them in by 2033, the outlay also going up. Pathikrit, how important was this? How big a push will this give this sector?
Thank you, Uday. I almost forgot that I'm part of the panel. Been waiting for the last 40 minutes.
No, you're particularly on this nuclear energy announcement, Pathikrit, and we've just come to it now.
I'm not a nuclear expert.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm not a nuclear expert. I can speak on the larger aspect of power sector. I can speak on the larger aspect of the budget. But let me tell you one thing. It has
no, if you don't want to weigh in on the nuclear sector, you don't have to. I'll go to other guests. No, not an issue. Let me get in Major Asthana on the nuclear sector in particular, because Major Asthana, the fact is that the clean energy push has been a priority of this government, the fact very clearly is that Prime Minister Modi has often emphasized this on numerous occasions, and that's something that the FM has tried to put in every budget, and today's budget of course was no exemption as well, with the outlay further being increased.
Certainly, the nuclear, it's not only the nuclear and clean energy. Firstly, we need energy. That's the first basic requirement. And for that energy, we need all components of energy, and we don't produce all of them. So with the result, as far as the nuclear energy is concerned, it certainly gives us clean energy, which is good for the environment, which is good for pollution, reducing pollution. So we need that. And I think this has rightly been, this push has rightly been given. At the same time, I was looking at the overall picture of the energy sector because of the shortage of energy which we face. Because unlike Russia and America, we are not self-sufficient in energy. Also, China is the same case. But then in case of Chinese, they have done long-term contracts to secure their energy, whether it is with Iran and also their nearness to Russia. So through the pipelines, their energies can flow. In our case, this nuclear announcement becomes more important for the simple reason, because in our case, the energy has to flow through the sea, and if the energy sources are sanctioned and the fleet is also sanctioned, then you find a very major problem of getting energy. So energy is crucial, and it has been appropriately, I think, recognized by the government, and adequate actions are being taken on that. Also, I think when we are looking at the infrastructure, also infrastructure to get energy, we were looking at a whole lot of corridors, shipping infrastructure, and that is why a fair amount of money has been given for shipping industry as well, because you need to have ships, you need to have containers to get and you can't depend on foreign containers only. They are subject to various kinds of coercion.
That's very interesting that you bring that up, because shipbuilding stocks have rallied today, because of course, the provisions today for this sector.
Yeah, so shipping, and that's why we are also looking at now. You see, when the Red Sea corridor was blocked, we have started strategically looking at Vladivostok Chennai corridor, and that becomes important because we should be looking at the flow of energy from the other side.
Yes, I can see Air Vice Marshal. I can see Air Vice Marshal Ranjan still with us. So I'll quickly draw him back in on this aspect of nuclear energy as well, and the announcements, of course, for this sector. What explains this push by the union government, according to you? And is this, in furthering the clean energy mission that the Prime Minister has often spoken about on earlier occasions as well?
Absolutely, you're bang on. And one of the major focus of the current government towards the climate change, focusing on the green energy with the solar and wind well established now. After the nuclear deal 2008 signing, they want to give a push to the nuclear energy. Along with that, hydrogen fuel cell mission also has been given certain push. Some money has been allotted to them. And all in all, you'll find a quantum change happening on this account. Additionally, as highlighted by the other panelists, 25,000 crore has been given to maritime segment, essentially to give a boost to our the shipping and the port, etc., so that we are secure from the supply lines through the sea coming to us. Also, it helps us in the export. Yeah, primarily you don't have a major deep sea kind of a port. You have to bank on Sri Lanka. So all those things, with this kind of money coming in, you would have the major boost coming to the maritime domain. Additionally, I'll just go back to the AI. The government of India has allotted additional 2,000 crore for the AI mission, apart from the various other projects for the AI and scientific technologies. That's it from my side as of now.
Okay, Dilip Cherian, this is also something important because we often, and we see this conversation happen globally as well, on the need and push for alternative energy. And in this, continuing conversation, today's announcements by the FM for the nuclear energy, do you believe they were a welcome push?
I think it's a huge opportunity for us for reasons, of course, of the access to clean energy. But what is not perhaps explicitly stated is that after Dr. Manmohan Singh did the nuclear deal with America, we haven't been able to really action it. This is the opportunity now under the Trump government for us to fulfill what America was expecting us to do for many years. So with the investments, we will now be able to actually take advantage of that deal and to make sure that we don't fall under the pariah nations who don't have access to advanced American technology in this. This also becomes a huge opportunity for the Americans, which is what the Trump administration is looking for, because the inequality of exports between the countries and the loud cries of wanting to create tariff walls will now be somewhat mitigated if India launches a gigantic nuclear power program which is safe, does not disturb vulnerable populations, and provides energy for a huge and growing population that is underserved as far as energy is concerned. I think that giant energy projects of this kind are probably better and safer and environmentally more acceptable than many other technologies which may be used, and will not swallow up the kind of land in scale that solar and others are currently using.
Drawing you in here, again on the nuclear energy point before I go back to our panelists for closing comments. You know, as far as the push for nuclear energy is concerned, you know, this is obviously something that will further boost this sector, but what is now going to have to be very important is going to be the implementation now of what the budget is set aside as well. You know, the devil lies in the detail, and the proof of pudding is when the implementation is done. The vision has been set out by PM. The announcement has been made now by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today. Now the implementation has to follow for these goals for 2047 to be fulfilled in this sector, Mithali.
No, absolutely, Uday. I mean, you know, today we've seen a number of announcements. Of course, the nuclear energy roadmap has been laid out, and I think my fellow panelists spoke about it very eloquently that, you know, at the end of the day, there are two strategic reasons why this is critical. One of the reasons why this is critical is, of course, looking at the energy security of India and looking at the fact that India needs to secure its supply lines. But also look at what's happening with Bangladesh's energy security at this point in time, right? Bangladesh has been dependent on a foreign company to provide its, you know, energy security, and now it's being asked to pay double or triple for, you know, for that electricity supply. So we don't want to be in a situation like that, and developing indigenous capacity of clean energy is critical, because as we move forward, we are going to need to meet our targets for the net zero commitments that India has made, and therefore in that regard, investing in nuclear energy happens to be one of the cheapest. I mean, though the capex expenditure is high, but over time, it will actually turn out to be one of the cheapest sources of energy to power up nearly a 2 billion population that we could be targeting by 2040 or 2045. So it's a very forward looking perspective.
Okay, let's get closing comments now. Finally, Mithali Nikore, your big takeaway from the budget. What do you believe defined today's budget, in your opinion?
So I think, you know, there obviously the tax break that was given to the middle classes, putting the money back in the hands of people, increasing disposable income is a number one takeaway. But having, you know, that's the obvious takeaway. But apart from that, I would like to highlight three other points. The one point which really stood out to me was to talk about rural resilience and rural livelihoods, diversification of crops, and agricultural productivity. I mean, this is the first time in many years that we've prioritized not just the farmer welfare, but looking at that long term perspective of agriculture productivity and moving away from just a few crops. That was very innovative. The second thing that stood out to me was really around job creation by industry, and, you know, looking at this entire element of public private partnerships to fuel infrastructure development. The government has done a fantastic job over the last 10 years to keep on pumping money into capital, you know, assets, and now it's asking the private sector to do its bit and to come in and say, become co-investors. We will come up with a pipeline of PPP projects. Why don't you take a look at it and invest your money as well? And the last point I'd like to mention is around social security. We have seen that today gig workers will be entitled, 1 crore gig workers will be entitled to social security benefits, particularly health insurance. This is the beginning of the establishment of a market for social security. It might start with gig workers. Over time, it might be available even to full-time workers. This will take the pressure off of employers and make it easier for employers, especially MSMEs, to create more jobs.
Okay. Dilip Cherian, your biggest takeaway from today's budget, what defined it according to you?
I would say that it's important not to lose sight of what the budget actually signaled. My fellow panelist, the economist, has focused on all the wonderful things that's being done for industry. But we can't get away from the fact that this budget has clearly been a very political document also. So from whether it's the Makana board or whether it's expanding the investment on the Kosi Canal, the effort to make sure that Bihar was center and front of the budget, and the fact that Bihar has a direct rub-off on the elections which are going to be happening in Delhi in the next few days and in Bihar in the next few months, is a sign of a government that knows that it is only the politics of victory that ensures continuity for the government to be in business. So I'm not surprised. I'm seeing this as a kind of renewed enthusiasm by the government to make sure that its politics finds resonance among the people, which is the only reason why it is where it is.
Air Vice Marshal Ranjan, your biggest takeaway from today's budget, according to you, what has defined the 2025 announcements?
I think this budget is the first of the budget towards the Amrit Kal to make us the developed nation, wherein it's a balanced budget for the infrastructure, S&T and innovation, manpower build-up, capability enhancement, and also with all the policies falling into the place, be it for Atmanirbharta or space or the AI. You are also seeing programs are being launched, various missions are being launched to support those policy. Along with the government is willing to fund viability gap fund. IDEX has been given 4,000 crore this time. So the funding also hand-holding government is willing to do. Then as a result of that, users and whole of the nation approach I see into this budget. As a result, I feel that this is the first of the budget marching towards 2047. Thank
All
you.
right. Last word to you, Major Lestana, before I close. Your biggest takeaway from today, what has defined the union budget?
I think towards the national aim, the manufacturing sector has been given a lot of boost. MSME being helped. Innovations is important and I think has been taken care of. And to understand, to I think make the best of the demographic advantage which we have to skill, reskill and upskill people. And I think that also has been taken into account. Infrastructure we need, and a lot has been done in a manner that it was also talked of yesterday regarding public-private partnership, because government alone cannot create that kind of infrastructure, and infrastructure is the one which creates jobs. So both the things, I think, the partnership of private players is important. And as far as the defense manufacturing is concerned,
Yes.
I think that is Atmanirbharta and defense manufacturing. We have to, I think this government is now looking at defense manufacturing in a manner in which it should be looked at as a money earner and not the money spender. Because if we can put our efforts together, we can earn fair amount of money. America is earning maximum amount of money from the arms dealers.
Yes.
There is no reason why we can't earn money out of the defense manufacturing.
All right, point taken. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run completely out of time. We are now going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere, but thanks to our viewers for being with us today.